Ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host for today's broadcast, his name Lear13, and today we are going to get underway for our second NASCAR race of the day. We already completed the Tour TASCAR broadcast at Suzuka a little bit earlier. Now it's going to be race 4 in PTG's NASCAR Championship Series. I had to take care of a little bit of hiccup there. Real quickly, let's run down some of the drivers who will be running in today's event. PTG Robo611 is back in the 61 Boost Mobile Toyota. Roachman 2004 makes his second start of the season in the number 13 Fiberworks Chevy. TJ, who is fighting for the championship, makes another start in the number 14 Velocity Mustang. PTG Speed is back in the Moose number 40 Chevrolet. SRD Shredder, once again, is in the Susie number 10 Mustang. Dino Prime 77 is in the Trevor number 77 Chevy. TNR Larry B is going back-to-back in that Die Hard number 67 Camaro. TFB Matter is in the number 91 Goodwrench Camaro today. Deed Speeman is in the Logitech number 23 Camry. Maybe Racing is in the number 3 Exalta Mustang. VER AJ5 Gamer is in the number 41 Bank of America Mustang. PTG Little Caesar is in the Tide Ride, the number 32 Mustang. PTG Wolfpack is in the number 51 Mustang. NFL Racer is in the number 53 Chevrolet. And YOLO Menace is in the number 99 Camry, and PTG Neb is back in the very brightly colored number 64 Mustang. We are looking at 16 drivers for today's event. So, things to consider. This is going to be a relatively short race. If it goes green flag to flag, this race will probably be done in about 90 minutes. This is only going to be an 80-lap race. Fuel tank will only last about 25 laps, and tires will go only a little bit farther than that. In fact, going from the information that series host PTG Speed actually shared privately with me before the event started, he says that tires can go about 25 to 26 laps, and the fuel tank will last about 28 laps. Real quickly, let's go ahead and look at the point standings as they are right now after race 3 on the schedule. So, first we'll start with the Teams Championship. Still leading the Teams Championship is 2311 with 138 points. Then PTD Lil Shred with 119. Third is Pendulum Tuning Garage with 116 points. Fourth is VER Duginio with 113 points. IFEA Racing is only at 98 points. When it comes to the point standings, there is a tie at the top of the championship between Dino Prime 77 and SRD Shredder. They both have 117 points. Third is VER TTJ 111, has 111 points. PTG Speed is fourth with 101 points. NFL Racer 4812 is fifth with 98 points. PTG Neb is sixth with 97 points. TNR Larry then follows with 88 points. There's another tie with PTG Little Caesar and Badimski. They both have 77 points each. Deed Speeman is at 78 points. For some reason, that's not properly ordered. Don't know what happened there. TFB Matter then has 71 points. VER Razor is at 60. PTG Wolfpack is at 51. PTG Jammer is at 46. HYR Melanie 9 is at 40 points. Yellow Menace 001 is at 36 points. Shoplifting is at 29 points. PTG Robo 611 is at 29 points. Aidenman 2005 is also at 29 points. And AJ5 Gamer is currently sitting at 25 points as well. Penalties from last race included race probation against NFL Racer, contact between him and Matter sent Matter off track, but it's only a probation. Another warning went to NFL Racer for cutting the pit lane entry while pitting. I'm honestly shocked it didn't end up being a bigger issue. Larry B got a warning for also cutting into the pit entry while someone else was in the middle of making a pit stop. SRD Shredder got probation for causing the lap 8 accident at Watkins Glen with TJ. However, due to the sheer volume of accidents, apparently the officials deemed that it wasn't worth giving him anything more than just that probation. And then Deed Speeman is out from his probation. Also, PTG Wolfpack also is under probation for abusing the pit entry line, apparently. So, that's currently how everything stands. We're still waiting for everyone to get ready up and get underway for the event. Everyone's anticipated to run soft tires all the way through, with it being an 80-lap race. If your fuel tank can go 28 laps, but tires can only go 25 laps, things are going to get really interesting. Either you need some laps under yellow flag to make it a nice 2-stop event, or you might want to elect not leading a bunch of laps and instead run a bunch of laps at lower speed right in someone else's draft to try and stretch out your fuel and tire life and then make it 2 stops. I'm really interested to see how this race turns out if it goes green flag to flag, because while the fuel can make it, everything I'm hearing is suggesting the tires will not make it. If you want to cut an 80-lap race, technically 81-lap race, into nice even parts, you would have to be looking at 27 laps in for pit stop 1, and then your next pit stop would need to be at lap 54, and then you would be running out of fuel basically as you cross the line for 81. And again, I don't know if that's actually going to be possible for a lot of these drivers. One thing that will help a little bit is, because this is a normal NASCAR event, you will be looking at 1 pace lap at the start. So you're not really going 81 full throttle laps, you're going 80 full throttle laps, and then 1 pace lap, which is around here is like only about a third of a normal lap when it comes to fuel usage. Also be aware, speeds are going to be incredibly high today. We're going to be looking at speeds well into the 170s in turn 1, which is anticipated to be one of the slowest corners on the track. We're very likely to see speeds up into the 200-mile-an-hour range going into the corners. Overtaking is going to be very difficult, not impossible, but very difficult, because the draft is going to be incredibly strong throughout the day today. However, we are not expecting to have a whole lot of side-by-side action mid-corner. I would not be surprised if we see drivers walling it and plowing the outside wall, primarily coming out of turn 1 and coming out of turn number 4. Turn 2 is normally flat or pretty close to flat in these cars. Turn 3, while not flat, is got a significant amount of banking on exit, which will make navigating turn 4 significantly easier for a majority of the field. We're going to try and knock out NAD break and get ahead of that. We'll be back shortly and hopefully on track when we are back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Indianapolis Motor Speedway, as we are currently on a holding pattern waiting to start our race today. At the current moment, we are currently waiting just to get underway. Another interesting thing is that the tune for today's event has been set up by Maybe Racing. This is the same tune that IFEA ran in their NASCAR race here about 2.5 to 3 months back. Well, I didn't cover that race. I did cover the second Daytona race and the season finale Miami race in that championship, where Dino Prime 77 ended up taking home that championship when at the end of the season it was a fight between himself, Tactical Fallout, and Maybe Racing. Dino would win the final race, the only race when he had that year, to clinch the championship. So a lot of interesting things to consider. Some drivers actually will have more experience with this car and how it handles than others because of that. And primarily I'm looking at Dino and Maybe. But pole position, once again, is SRD Shredder. But again, Shredder's biggest problem on the ovals is that he does a really good job qualifying up near the front, and then normally after about 3 or 4 laps starts plummeting downwards through the grid. We'll give you a rundown on how the grid is properly ordered here just a bit. Actually, the officials might have it already updated how the grid order is supposed to be on their server, and if they do, I will go ahead and walk you through that now before we get too deep into this. Yep, okay, I do have it. All right, so from the back to the front, starting 16th is going to be YOLO Menace. He said a time of 49.1. Then Roachman 2004, whose best time was a 49.0. Then NFL Racer 48.12 with 48.5. Then PTG Wolfpack will be 13th. PTG Robo will be 12th. PFB Matter will be 11th. 10th will be VER TTJ. 9th will be PTG Neb. 8th will be Dino Prime 77. 7th will be VER AJ5 Gamer. 6th will be TNR Larry B. 5th will be Deed Smeeman. 4th will be PTG Speed. 3rd will be PTG Little Caesar. 2nd will be Maybe Racing. And starting on the pole will be SRD Shredder, as we are just currently waiting to get underway to start our event today. Should be getting underway very shortly here. Everyone is readied up and they should be good to go. Also of note, Larry B and PTG Neb are basically doing double duty. They both ran in the Tora Task Car event at Suzuka earlier. That was an open tuning event which had a lot less power in the cars, but both events look like they're set to be a 2-stop event. Again, if we end up with a lot of incidents today, we could end up with a unexpected 3rd or 4th stop by drivers trying to repair damage. Also, might be a legitimate strategy to try and run extra stops, or get a 3rd stop out of the way very early if you have an early yellow flag. That way you don't really have to worry about significant tire or fuel fall off late in the event. There's also been some changes to the yellow flag procedures after Watkins Glen, but that mainly applies to road courses, and we likely aren't really going to get into the nitty-gritty of that until we actually get to the road course races this year. Still don't know what the holdup is. Here we are. All right, now we'll see them reorder the grid, and then we should get underway very shortly here for today's race. Watching this is like trying to watch some busted sorting algorithm work. It's not too bad. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Indianapolis Motor Speedway. As we are currently lined up single file for a moment, they'll probably go back to double file once they're about to enter turn 3. But we are about to get underway here. It will be a relatively short 80-lap race. So if we stay green flag to flag, this race will be done in 90 minutes. But again, the big question is going to be, what is everyone's tire and fuel strategy going to be looking like today? Looking at the front, our leader is starting with a full fuel tank. Second place, Maybe Racing, is going to be starting with a nearly full fuel tank. Third place is going to be starting with a full fuel tank. And I imagine fourth place and fifth place will also be starting with a full fuel tank. So it seems like no one is really trying to play games. No one seems to be running with a really low fuel, really light fuel load at the start of the event here. So again, they'll double up. So we'll have 8 rows of 2. It will be 80 laps, but is this going to be chaos? Is it going to be carnage? Is it going to be really relaxed and everyone falls in the line and makes no move? Will it be a strategy race, or is someone going to take the dominant point at the front right from the start? Well, we'll all find out probably in about an hour and a half's time. But until then, everyone, I hope you got your drinks ready. I hope you got your food ready, because this is playing to be a very interesting, incredible race as the field comes out of turn number 4. Everyone is doubled up across the entire grid, and once they hit the line, we'll be underway. As it comes to the line, green flag is out once again here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And immediately around the outside is Maybe. He's starting on the outside. Can he make an outside overtake stick on your pole setter? He's going to try and make it stick. He's got the nose ahead as they go into turn 2. Turn 2 is going to be really close to flat out. And yes, he does. Maybe around the outside has the lead. So while he didn't qualify up front. He immediately goes right to the top of the grid. Shredder is second, PTG Little Caesar is third, fine with PTG Speed and Deed Speedman. PTG Nev is back there in sixth, which is one spot below where he finished earlier today. Oh, and there's already an incident! Already, Deed Speedman is around! He's spinning in front of the field. He is backwards on the track. And the car has significant amounts of damage. I don't know if that's going to be a caution. We'll see. And yes, that will be the first caution of the day. As Deed Speedman gets turned around, it didn't look like he got touched by anything. It looked like more it was a handling issue. But Deed Speedman spins around and wrecks the car right away on the first lap of the race, in between turns 3 and 4. And that will drop him well down the order and will bunch the field back up. It might take a little bit of time for everyone to figure out exactly where they all were running at the time of the caution. But an early yellow flag will inevitably have a knock-on effect on strategy, because there are a lot of drivers that will consider pitting under this yellow flag to potentially get a little bit ahead on the fuel and tire game and put themselves in a slightly better position when it comes to fuel and tires as the race goes on. Now, it should be noticed. Maybe not noticed. I think noted is probably the right term, but it should be noted. At Indianapolis, they do not use the entire in line. You just come onto the pit road here out of turn number 4, but you do have to use the proper exit lane. Now, I'm not sure if this series lets you merge back on the track between turns 1 and 2 or on the exit of turn 2. That is one thing that I had not checked. But does anyone elect to pit here on the first lap? Well, really, it's lap 3, but really, we've only had about 3/4 of a single racing lap, and we do have several drivers pitting. Obviously, Deed Speedman has to pit to repair damage, but he is going to be joined by TNR Larry B and Dino Prime 77, so those drivers will have a little bit more fuel, but crucially, they will have roughly a 2-lap tire advantage over the rest of the field. We look at our leader, Maybe Racing, who's already put 4.4% of tire wear on those outside tires. It may not sound like a lot right now, but these tires start falling off a cliff, something nasty, once you're at 60%, 60 to 68%. Different drivers will report different numbers. In my experience, is usually about 62.5. But between 60 and 65%, that's when you start losing significant amount of lap times on your tires. So, I imagine that this pit stop early is a big strategy call by the likes of Larry and Dino. And if Deed is fortunate and can avoid any further accidents, this could be the exact thing that they need to go ahead and get them up near the front of the field at the end of this race. Okay, so everyone's currently lined up single file, but we'll likely see a restart this lap. No one was a lap down, and only a few drivers pitted, and they've already caught the rear of the grid. So we'll likely see them start doubling up very shortly here. Yep, so this time, Maybe is on the inside, and SRD Shredder is on the outside. That's going to be an interesting change to how this starts. Most everyone else is starting in the same row that they began the race on, except for the drivers at the very back. But a lot of them are now flipped on which row they start this at. So keep an eye, because this could really have a knock-on effect. This could reshuffle the order for the entire field. As they come through turn number 4, we're going to go green here on lap 5, well, realistically lap 4, but lap 5 for our 81 race, lap 4 of an 80-lap race. All 16 drivers still with us, everyone's still on the lead lap. We've had one accident for Deed Speedman wrecking in front of the field. Thankfully, he was the only one involved. But he had a wreck in front of the field between turns 3 and 4. That put us under our first yellow, which is now over, and we go green once again here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Ooh, Shredder gets touched by PTG Speed and is forced to walk up the track. He goes way up the track. NFL Racer is trying to make moves a little bit farther back there. 4 wide for position. NFL Racer backs out. He does not want any part of that, but he's still in the middle of a 3-wide bout. There's 3 wide in front of him still as well. And that's Larry, who gets touched by TJ. TJ goes down. PTG Wolfpack almost goes to the dirt trying to avoid incidents. Now NFL Racer tucks up behind Wolfpack as they head down into turn number 3 once more. All right, turn 3 at full speed again. Can they all keep it clean? This time there's a little bit of contact between the 91 and the 14. Now Wolfpack cuts down, and now NFL Racer goes to the outside wall. I don't think he has any damage, but he's going, no, he does have damage. He's immediately going to bring the car down to pit lane. At the front, Little Caesar has moved up into second position. Shredder fell from second to fourth on this restart. And I think we might see the field stay green for now. Larry has already moved up into 10th, Dino up to 11th, and Deetspearman up to 9th on this restart. But at the front is Maybe Racing and PTG Little Caesar, who are nose to tail. Why are we under the yellow? Okay. All right. Well, I guess while we're under the yellow, I'll knock out another ad break to try and get ahead of that. We'll be back shortly here at Indianapolis. I swear this series is way too low happy. Oh, that's a lot of drivers coming in. Huh. Yeah, this isn't the strategy call. This is a strategy call. This isn't damage. So a lot of drivers are making this a 3-stop race and making their first stop ultra early. The problem is, because they don't spread the field out, and we've had methods for them to spread the field out for a long time, because they don't spread the field out, we just keep having restarts after restarts. Alright, well, whatever. All right, welcome back to Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Our leader is still Maybe Racing, who has led every lap thus far. The field begins to double up, but under that yellow flag, due to NFL Racer getting shunted in the outside wall, 5 other drivers elected to pit as well. And they were PTG Neb, PTG Wolfpack, TNR Larry B, who did it again, Dino Prime, who did it again, along with Roachman, and there may be an instant if we just had an accident under the yellow flag. No, but for some reason he was knocked out. But yeah, 5 drivers, 64 count NFL Racer, all pitted under this yellow flag. So they now have what's going to be about an 8% advantage when it comes to tire life. Now they'll still have to make 2 stops, so will everybody, but they can make their stops a little shorter and go hard. They don't have to go really hard on saving fuel and tires. So the field's all gathered up. We're going to try and restart this again. Maybe inside, Little Caesar outside, and we are green at Indianapolis. And immediately drivers are trying to make it 3 wide farther back. Little Caesar does not get shunted from the cars behind this time, but he is immediately under threat by PTG Speed. Side by side for position, but it looks like Little Caesar is going to hold it. Ow! Speed walks himself up the track and sends TJ with them, and now that is AJ Gamer, who's on the extreme inside line. He's got a big head of steam. No, it's not AJ, that's Matter. Matter's the one with the big head of steam on the inside of PTG Speed right now. And SRD Shredder is right there behind Little Caesar, a little bit farther back in the grid. This is NFL Racer trying to recover after the accident earlier, but it looks like we might finally get the entire field to complete a lap at full speed. The fight is on for second and third. Shredder is right there behind Little Caesar. Little Caesar has got a big draft off of Maybe Racing, though. They are side by side. farther back between Speed and TJ. TJ has the inside line. Speed has the outside line. It seems like Speed is really struggling to make something of it. TJ has that nice tighter line. He's through. AJ slaps the outside wall, and now here comes Deed Speedman coming back on the inside line, and they are side by side a little bit farther back as well. But they also have just had a change at the front. Maybe Racing has been overtaken by both Little Caesar and Shredder. Little Caesar very nearly goes on the wall, and Shredder now shoots into the lead with Little Caesar in second and Maybe Racing in third. Our top three all are tucked right on top of each other right now. And it looks like we're going to get a second lap in the books, clean and green. So we might finally have a nice long green flag run. But at the front, there is a breakaway by this trio of Shredder, Little Caesar, and Maybe Racing. Keep an eye on the likes of Dino Prime and Larry B. They made a pit stop under the last yellow flag, so while they do have one more stop to make, they are not going to be dealing with extreme tire fall off near the end of their stints. They can shorten their stints up if necessary. Down the back straightaway again. Here comes Little Caesar to the inside of SRD Shredder. Side by side going into turn 3. If you're on the outside going into this corner, you might as well just let them have it. Now Maybe Racing is going to follow through, but Maybe Racing can't complete the overtake. Maybe is stuck, tucked up behind SRD Shredder. Little Caesar goes into the lead, but Caesar is wide coming out of the corner. Shredder has a nice, good run coming down. The top 4 now are all around top of each other. Caesar, Shredder, Maybe, and Speed. Now Shredder looks back to the inside of Little Caesar. Can't get alongside, not that time at least. Yellow Menace has lost touch with the rest of the field at the back, but everyone else is in pretty close to a big straight line throughout the entire grid. Shredder tucked up right behind Little Caesar's rear bumper. Does he try and make a move going into the corner, or is he just going to let off and save a little bit of fuel? Looks like for right now, he'll just let off and save a little bit of fuel. It is now Speed who has moved up into third, and Maybe Racing, who qualified second, jumped to the lead and led early, is now starting to slip backwards. He's already fallen back to 4th position. That is TJ, who's just a little bit behind. And then it's a big gap until you get to 7th position. That is a pack being led by Deed Speedman right now, trying to keep NFL Racer and PTG Neb behind him. Neb going to the outside. Deed Speedman has the inside. Neb is going to try and complete the overtake around the long way. Deed Speedman is going to give him not quite enough room. Neb gets shunted into the wall, and there's a little bit of contact. They barely are going to keep it together, and now NFL Racer comes up on the inside. They'll be side by side again for a position as they go down the straightaway. 2 by 2 for these mid-pack spots, and it looks like NFL Racer has his car most of the way ahead, and he is going to try and bring Dino Prime 77 behind him, but Dino's having trouble following in the draft. NFL can't complete the overtake on Deed Speedman. Now into turn 4, they're side by side again. Deed is wide. Deed is very wide, but he'll keep the car out of the wall, but he'll lose 3 positions and a huge chunk of track time in the process. So NFL Racer and Dino, who pitted in the last yellow, are now moving their way back up through the grid. They are already about halfway up the field. Meanwhile, at the front, it is PTG Little Caesar, followed by SRD Shredder, who's just content to run in his draft, followed by PTG Speed. Then you have Maybe Racing, who's just barely holding on to the draft of Speed. Then it's a big drop back till you get to TJ. TJ is trying to pull away from TFB Matter, and Matter is slowly being run down by the duo of NFL Racer and Dino Prime. Again, there are multiple different pit stop strategies we are looking at throughout the event. Because we ran a lot of laps early on under yellow, everyone who was thinking, okay, well, you can only go about 25 laps on the fuel or the tires, they're going to be able to go a few laps longer, but they're still going to be dealing with some significant tire fall off. Watch the likes of Dino Prime and NFL Racer. If we stay green for a long run, they are going to have a significant advantage going forward. They do not have to push their tires to nearly an extreme of a rate as our current leaders do. In fact, as we look at the tire wear of our leader right now, 26.4% by PTG Little Caesar on that outside right front, but he is just leading right now. And one other thing, let's look at the fuel mileage. Little Caesar is at 62.8% for SRD Shredder, who is running right in his draft. What's his fuel at? 65. So Shredder may not be saving a lot of tires, but he is saving a significant amount of fuel right now. That could end up being the big wild card. It's not a matter of making a whole lot of big moves. It may end up just coming down to making only moves to get by drivers who are ridiculously slow. If you're behind a driver who's got pace similar to you, just run in their draft and save fuel by running right behind them. That might end up being the big thing of this race. But there are some drivers here who don't seem to understand that quite yet. I think Dino and NFL Racer are trying to hustle their way forward. They are under the impression that if we do not go green to the end of this race, if we have yellows, they want to have as much track position as possible. The two of them do seem to be working together, try to do everything they can to get by PTG Neb, but it just doesn't look like it's working right now. Neb on that tighter inside line has a significant advantage, and the longer that Dino and NFL are stuck on a higher line, the worse and worse their tires are going to be, and the more and more they're going to lose their tire advantage, and now Dino gets shifted by NFL Racer. So farther up, Matter and TJ are in a little bit of a side-by-side battle between each other for the 5th positions. It looks like Matter has it right now. Meanwhile, at the front, the top two are pulling away just a little bit from 3rd and 4th. Maybe Racing is now closing back in on PTG Speed just a little bit. Oh, and Shredder went off the ideal line. He didn't get into the dirt, but he went a big distance off of the ideal racing line. He's fallen back in line in 2nd now, but he may have to push just a little bit so he can get the ideal draft. Our top 4 have absolutely pulled a monstrous gap on the rest of the field right now. Maybe Racing, we're not surprised. Maybe he's not made a lot of starts in this season, but maybe was one of the championship contenders in IFEA, and a lot of IFEA tunes are what is being used in this series around the ovals right now. So maybe is the one who should be the most familiar with the setup. It's not too much of a surprise to see them right near the front. Neb is really wide in turn 1, and that brings NFL Racer a chance to shoot by. Now here comes Dino Prime. Dino wants to try and get back by. Neb gets a big draft on exit turn 2 on NFL Racer, though. Dino is going to be running the draft of both of them now. Down the straight. Now here comes PTG Neb. I don't know if PTG Neb is aware of the fact that it would be a little bit more beneficial to just kind of hang out in position, stop trading spots. He's at 52% fuel. I look at NFL Racer. What's his fuel number at right now? 43. So Neb actually has more fuel. So I wonder if the likes of NFL and Dino did not add more fuel during their pit stops. So there actually might be just a little bit lighter. That will help with the tire life just a little bit. But that does mean that they may have to save a bit of fuel as this goes on. Change for 3rd position as our top 4 have all closed in. PTG Speed has willingly dropped back to 4th in this group, and now everyone is tucked up behind PTG Little Caesar. We had 2 yellow flags early in the event, but now we are on a long green flag run, but at the front, it is not calmed down at all, and Little Caesar tried to block Shredder, and now here comes Maybe Racing back to the inside, side by side for the top 4 positions as they come out of the final corner. It is 2 by 2 for the lead, for 3rd, as they come down the line. Maybe is on the inside line all by himself. Little Caesar gets a push by PTG Speed, but Maybe has that faster inside line. Little Caesar can't do anything. Speed touches the dirt behind, so he has to fall to 3rd, and Shredder goes to 4th in this fight. A reminder for SRD Shredder. Shredder was in Tora's Indy 500 about a month and a week ago. In that event, he had one of the best cars. He actually provided the tune that ended up winning that event. Shredder knows how to get around here in Indianapolis. The thing is, he kept getting involved in accidents caused by other people, which put him multiple laps down. Right now, as long as he can just hang out with this group, he might be able to get by them and get ahead of them on virtue of saving fuel, either staying out on track longer and running more in clean air, or by having shorter pit stops by saving big amounts of fuel in this race. By the way, our top 4 are still at about a 4.5 second advantage over our 5th place drivers right now. So assuming that pit stop strategy doesn't have a massive effect on this race, it is looking like these 4 are the drivers we have to watch for this race win today. Maybe Racing leads, but now PTG Little Caesar comes back to the inside with PTG Speed and SRD Shredder just a little bit behind. Speed already has a win on the season. SRD Shredder still looking for his. Maybe has not won. He's not even started all the races thus far. And the same goes for Little Caesar. When it comes to the championship fight, if everyone finished where they are right now, SRD Shredder would easily take over the championship points lead. So to come across the line, we are a little bit past the 1/3 mark of the race as they continue to just rip away laps from our overall distance. But again, tire life is going to be a big issue. 43% already for Little Caesar, and the tires are only going to continue to get worse. And again, you're on board with SRD Shredder. He's not making moves. He's just hanging out at the back of this group, saving fuel, letting all these guys do the crazy stuff. He just wants to go ahead and let the race come back to him. You can visually see how easily he's getting out, not easily, how early he is rolling out of the throttle and letting the draft of the drivers ahead just kind of tow him through the corners. He's not going for a lot of overtakes, although with the way the speed drivers ahead are moving, he might end up making a few overtakes if these drivers have big mistakes, miss corners, and just are stuck on an extreme outside line. But you can audibly hear, well, not just hear, you can visually see how much earlier Shredder is letting down the throttle to hold on to this position. I think right now Shredder is on a masterful strategy. If you want to make this race a 2-stop race, do what Shredder is doing. If you want to make this a 3-stop race, I think Dino Prime and NFL Racer and PTG Neb to a slightly lesser extent are the drivers in the best condition. Neb has been fighting very aggressively. That might hurt him overall, but I do think, and maybe missed the corner there. Boy, did maybe miss the corner. And now trapped on the outside line. Maybe we'll go from first back to third. SRD Shredder is not going to force the issue, though. It doesn't look like it. But maybe did not have the momentum out of the corner to really fight with Shredder, and now maybe actually has to fall in line behind SRD Shredder. So now it is PTG Speed who leads here at Indianapolis, and AJ pits on lap 13 significantly earlier than anyone else in the field. We knew that the fuel should be able to go about 25 laps if you're green all the way through. We had yellow early on, so you should be able to go even farther than that. Look at our leader's fuel, 33%. He still's got a lot of fuel in the tank, but that right front is already at 50.8%. So this is going to be the point. Drivers like Neb, NFL, and Dino should start gaining a lot of time on the leaders because they will have a significant tire advantage at this stage of the race. Oh, maybe hard into the outside wall back there. No damage, he's able to continue, but it's very obvious that maybe is not comfortable with the handling of that car as the fuel burns off. All right, so now we see that AJ's already gone a lap down, but he'll get that back later. Speed is in second, just trying to hold on to the draft of Little Caesar right now. SRD Shredder has kind of lost touch with our top two right now. So how comfortable are you as the fuel and the tires go away in your car? As the fuel burns out, the back end of the car becomes lighter and lighter and is going to want to slide around just a little bit more. And then that right front tire gets more and more worn, and you're going to have a lot more understeer through corner entry and corner exit. That right front takes a severe amount of punishment around this circuit. But somehow, PTG Speed is still hanging out with PTG Little Caesar at the head of this field. Shredder is about 2 seconds back, and then maybe is running just in Shredder's draft right now, so trying to claw a little bit of time back. TJ runs ahead of Matter. Matter's actually kind of lost touch with TJ, and Neb is trying to run down Matter, but he's got NFL Racer behind, and then Dino Prime is a little bit farther back. So right now, it looks to me like Neb and NFL are the drivers best positioning themselves on what's a 3-stop strategy, where you already got an extra pit stop done early, you can go full board to the end. Leading on our primary strategy is Little Caesar, Speed, Shredder, and maybe Racing. So we have 2 different strategies we're keeping an eye on right now. And again, this is the point in the event. 26 laps in, this is where we anticipate the tires start becoming unbearable. Now, all these cars on track have a good amount of fuel still in their cars, but their tires are going to be absolutely chunking away right now. Oh, and you can see maybe pound the outside wall again, this time out of turn 2. And when you're starting to hit that outside wall in turn 2, which is normally a flat-out corner, if you're hitting that wall in turn 2, you know that things are getting bad and getting bad fast. And now TJ and Matter have been caught by Neb and NFL Racer. So these drivers on these faster tires, you can visibly see how much quicker they are. TJ and Matter had a gigantic lead over these guys about 10 laps ago, and now it's all but gone. But most of these drivers are still staying out on track a little longer. You're trying to push out. You want to go to about lap 27 before you make your first pit stop, and that would be the best way to make it work. Our leaders, though, might be far enough ahead that they are not going to be caught by this group, I think. It's not a guarantee, but it is a very strong possibility that we could be looking at. Once more, we look at our leaders. Little Caesar, tire, what's he at? 57.8% on that right front. He might, if absolutely needs to, he might be able to squeeze another lap out of it. YOLO Menace pits farther back in the field, so he'll be the next driver to go a lap down now. Coming out of the final corner, does anyone in the lead pack pit? Yes! Second place, PTG Speed. He'll pit on lap 27. So Speed is trying to cut this race into perfectly even thirds. So, when Speed gets out, he's going to have a significant tire advantage over these other drivers. But does the undercut work, or is the overcut the way to go? I imagine the undercut's going to be the way to go, but you'll have to pay the piper at some point. However, I don't think it's going to matter to Speed. I think Speed, by cutting this race into even thirds, will avoid most of the problem with having to pay the piper and deal with significant tire falls at the very end. He'll still have some tire falls, but won't be as extreme. Here comes Shredder to the inside of Little Caesar. He's by. Little Caesar didn't even try to put a fight back, but Shredder overshot the corner just a little bit. He'll barely keep the car off the wall, but Shredder is definitely having more than a little bit of a struggle there. And here comes Little Caesar. He'll pit on lap 28, but Shredder and Navy Racing will stay on track. Now look on the circuit. PTG Neb is now within 5 seconds of the lead duo. NFL Racer is within about 6 seconds of the lead duo. Dino Prime is having a little bit more issue trying to make his way up through the grid. He keeps getting caught behind traffic because he's having trouble getting by them. But he is making his way forward. Now here's the other thing to remember. These drivers, their tires are not in great position either. You can see they're at 53%, but it's still a significant far sight better than where the leaders are right now. And then amongst the drivers who have already pitted, Speed pitted a lap earlier. Little Caesar is still on pit lane. Who's going to be ahead of the other? Little Caesar versus Speed. This could be a fight for the overall race win. Little Caesar's already coming out of pit lane. Here comes PTG Speed coming around turn 1. Little Caesar's going to be just a little bit ahead of him on track. You'll see him taking the pit lane exit line, so it'll be a little bit slower. Here comes Speed around the outside, and he's by, he's through, but Little Caesar falls in line just behind. He'll follow. Shredder pits now on lap 30, so he'll be the next one caught, but maybe he's going to stay out for another lap, so maybe he's going very far on the tires this time. And NFL Racer is also pitted, which is significantly earlier than I thought. I thought NFL could honestly go a little farther than this, and then Roachman, who is farther back in the field, is also going to pit. But now, with SRD Shredder in the pits, where's he going to end up in relation to this duo of PTG Speed and PTG Little Caesar? Speed pitted 2 laps earlier than Shredder. Little Caesar pitted 1 lap earlier. And look at this. Speed is fast enough. He has actually pulled away from Little Caesar. He is not going to have to worry about him. Shredder is just a little bit up the road from Speed right now. Coming around the final corner, Shredder coming out of pit lane exit. There he is. Here comes PTG Speed. It'll be a drag race, and Speed has it, but I think Shredder's going to be just close enough that he'll be able to get the draft off of PTG Speed and use Speed's draft to hold station. Maybe is going to stay out for another lap potentially. Yes, maybe is staying out for another lap. What is Maybe's strategy? Maybe's just burned that right front, but is just sticking with it. Maybe is trying to short stop the final stops of this event. There's no way on earth that Maybe's going to make it to lap 40 or 41 and try to one-stop this, but I think Maybe's just trying to short-stop this. And Neb, who's about 4 seconds behind, now will inherit the lead on an alternate strategy. But I would be a little bit concerned because if Maybe was able to, oh my gosh, and Neb has pitted with them, Dino has pitted with them, Wolfpack has pitted with them. So all those drivers who were doing the 3-stop strategy, they are now behind Maybe Racing, and they're behind by multiple seconds. So this has actually negated all those drivers who pitted earlier. The fight is just going to be between Speed, Shredder, and Maybe and Little Caesar. Those drivers who pitted early are now on a disadvantage because they are going to have somebody right ahead of them who's already ahead of them by an entire pit stop and has been able to go much farther on the tires. So it is now just a 4-car fight to the end of this race. But Maybe is so far behind. Oh my goodness, look how far behind Maybe is compared to our top 3. Look at that gap. Maybe is just nowhere near our leaders. But Maybe is still about 4 seconds ahead of PTG Neb. So Maybe's lost a lot of time in the pits by staying out so long. Now Larry and Deetsbeam in pit. They are the last drivers who are on that go long strategy. They are not in a position, no one is in a position to one-stop this race as we are under a relatively long green flag run right now. and you look at the pit stops already done, Larry and Deed, remember, Deed had an accident early on, and Larry pitted on both of the early yellows as well. So did NFL and Dino. So it is a 3-car fight at the head of the field. Speed pitted earlier. Little Caesar pitted a little later, then Shredder pitted the latest out of all 3 of them. So Shredder has a positive tire delta compared to these 2 drivers. Is that going to be enough? The other thing you'll have to worry about is going to be traffic soon enough. Maybe Racing is still about 6 seconds ahead of NFL Racer and PTG Neb and Dino. Those 3 are kind of in a zone of their own right now, and they do not have any sign. They're not showing any signs of being able to run down maybe, let alone our top 3 at the moment. So this is a 3-car battle, and then maybe Racing is doing something really wild, but Speed seems to be losing a bit of ground. Remember, Speed pitted a lap earlier than Caesar and 2 laps earlier than Shredder, and seems to be losing ground. So could this be a case that pitting early ends up biting you in the butt much faster than anticipated? If he's losing the draft off of the leaders, this could mean that whoever is pushing farther on these stints could be better off, and it could bring maybe Racing back into the fray for this race win. But it is most definitely now 1 stop left in the event. The other thing to consider, in the first stint, we had a lot of laps under the yellow flag. We're not under yellow yet, and if we stay green, we are going to see these drivers burn through their fuel loads and burn through their tire life a little quicker than what they did earlier. Shredder trying to run down Little Caesar. Just wants to get close enough so he can get the draft off of him, use the draft to extend the amount of time that he is on track and minimize the amount of time in the pits. He's going to try, I imagine, to short stop on the finals pit stop. But Little Caesar is losing a bit of ground now, and now Speed has caught them, and also, while that's going on, Maybe is now starting to run this group down just a little bit. Maybe Racing is only about 3 seconds out. Also, this entire trio is about to catch Yellow Menace. Yellow was one of the earlier drivers to pit, but his bigger issue is just he's been generally off pace most of the day today. Okay, so it is now Little Caesar, PTG Speed, and SRD Shredder. Reminder of these 3, Speed was the first one to pit in stint 1, then Caesar, then Shredder. Then Maybe went many, many laps farther than that, and Maybe is honestly pushing really hard and running the leaders down. If Maybe catches the leaders, Maybe has the pace and the ability to catch the leaders, I think the momentum of this race could go back in Maybe's favor, because Maybe can just go so much more aggressively on the tires as they fall off. Maybe not willingly, but they have the ability to go a lot farther on the tires. They can choose to pit much earlier to get track position, or they can choose to pit much later and short fill and put less fuel in the car to have a shorter pit stop and let the car be lighter and nimbler in the corners on the run to the end. And if you choose to pit later, you would have a tire advantage over the other drivers you would be fighting to the end. Now PTG Speed looks to the inside. I don't know what he was going for there, but he pulled off an incredible save right at 170 plus miles an hour. And now SRD Shredder dives to his inside, and Shredder goes by. And that's a little bit of relief for PTG Little Caesar, because now he gets to break the draft between himself and second and third a little bit. He gets to open up and run a little bit more in his own run. Yellow Menace is now actually in between first and second at the moment. So now second and third have to deal with Yellow Menace just a little bit ahead. Shredder immediately goes to the inside and is going to try and blitz by the lap car right there without too much issue. Speed may have to wait another corner or two, which will inevitably frustrate him. So Little Caesar has about a 2-second lead now over SRD Shredder. Don't know what happened there. So this is great news for Little Caesar. Now the next car they would catch to put a lap down would be PTG Robo 611. Hugging the inside is PTG Speed. He's alongside Yellow Menace, and he's through. So now Speed is going to have to try and run down SRD Shredder and get a draft back off of that number 10 machine. And if you look just a little bit farther back, sure enough, that is maybe racing. Maybe he's not right on top of the leaders, but he is running them down. Real quickly, let's just look at the tire delta. PTG Speed, 27.7% on that right front. But for Maybe, who pitted many laps later, it's only 17.6%. That is a 10% difference on tire life right now, as PTG Wolfpack is going to go ahead and pit down. So Wolfpack is going to have to make at least one more stop in the event. Now Maybe is held up in a straight line by Yellow Menace. That's not really going to help him. So Shredder now about 3 seconds behind Little Caesar at this stage of the event. And he's got PTG Speed just about to catch his draft. And if you're Shredder, do you let Speed go ahead of you so you can just run his draft for a bit? Because Speed is going to have worse tires than you, and he will be slowing you down. Or if you're Shredder, do you keep pushing hard and hope that the 1 lap delta you have over Caesar will let you close back in on Little Caesar as this goes on? Maybe is only about 4/10 of a second, about 5/10 of a second behind PTG Speed right now. And the fight between Neb, NFL, and Dino, well, this trio, any chance that they had of winning this race is gone, because while they are able to go a little farther on tires, they are now even with Maybe on tire strategy, but Maybe can go farther, and Maybe has been faster all day. It is a 4-car fight at the front. There is an outside chance that someone like TNR, Larry B, or Deed Speedman could make something happen, but I don't think it's looking like that would be a serious opportunity today. All right, Shredder starting to close down the gap between himself and Little Caesar. PTG Speed is actually carrying PTG Wolfpack, who has just completed their second stop of the day. He's kind of carrying Wolfpack around and giving Wolfpack a bit of unintentional draft, and Maybe is actually starting to bleed off a bit of time. So Maybe is able to go really far on the tires, but they seem to start dealing with tire fall off earlier. So that's something to consider. Does Maybe try and pit a little earlier for the final run to the end here? This 3-way fight for what is basically 5th. Neb leads, NFL is 2nd, Dino is 3rd in this fray. None of them are really making a lot of moves right now, but that could change as they're about to come up on traffic here. Neb is wide. NFL sees him run to the inside. Does he push it? No, he does not. In fact, the entire trio stay nose to tail lined up for right now. So how long will it take for Neb to get around traffic? Catches him in the corner. He's got the toe. He's got a toe. He's got a big toe. He goes to the inside. He's by. NFL gets by, and Dino gets by without any issue. So Yellow just goes to the outside line and lets them have it. So at the front, it is still Caesar, Shredder, Speed, and Maybe. We're going to go ahead and knock out an ad break, and when we come back, we should see the field start to make their second round of pit stops here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Welcome back to Indianapolis Motor Speedway as we are right on board with Maybe Racing. Maybe is starting to close down on PTG Speed, and there is a strong possibility that Speed is starting to deal with some tire fall off. Maybe is trying to close down, got really close to Wolfpack, but then nailed the outside wall in turn 2 and bled off a lot of time, but now Maybe is closing down once more. The big thing though is that at the front, SRD Shredder has just about caught Little Caesar. The Shredder pushed the tire life advantage, or does Shredder go ahead and pit at the same time as Little Caesar? And this duo is coming up on traffic. That will be PTG Robo 611. This is the next driver that they are coming up on. Shredder licks the outside wall just a bit that time. But yeah, Maybe is now within the draft of Wolfpack, and Wolfpack is in PTG Speed's draft. Neb is about 9 seconds out from the lead right now, so it is still only these 4 drivers at the front. They are so fast, and Maybe is good enough on tire life, maybe not the speed, but is good enough on tire life, that Maybe has everyone on the alternate strategy covered. As they come across the line, we are over halfway through the event already. Again, this is a relatively short race. The fear was that drivers would be spending a lot of time damaging their cars by hitting the wall. And we had 2 yellow flags early in the event, one for NFL Racer pounding the outside wall and damaging his car, one for Deedsman spinning in front of most of the field and damaging his car. But after that, we have been clean and green since. And there's a lot of question between strategy and everything, because if you look at our leaders, Little Caesar is just barely ahead of SRD Shredder. If you pit early, you get a significant amount of track position, but that advantage bleeds away, as you can see with Maybe Racing on speed. The advantage bleeds away the longer the run goes on. However, if you stay out for too long, you will end up not having enough time to take advantage of your tire life, and you just won't be able to run them down. Maybe is only now broken within 4 seconds of Little Caesar, and Maybe has realistically been about 4 to 6 seconds behind the leader since the first round of stops. So there's a fine balance between pit early, but then have your tires fall off later, or pit late and not have the track position to fight. And the fight, I think, is going to be between Little Caesar and Shredder, who manages it better. Shredder has tires that are 1 lap better than Caesar's for now, but we don't know how far he's going to be able or willing to push that advantage. He might throw the advantage away and pit at the same time. And Little Caesar comes down to a tighter line. He wants the draft here off of PTG Robo. We'll go around the outside of Robo, and we'll clear PTG Robo without too much issue. We'll force Shredder to go by on the outside, and Shredder is actually going to lose a huge chunk of time taking that wider outside line. So Shredder still cannot catch the draft of Little Caesar. So this could have huge ramifications. Meanwhile, Maybe Racing has gotten by Wolfpack, but in the process of getting by Wolfpack has lost the draft to Speed, and now Speed has caught the draft of PTG Robo. So Speed goes by Robo, and now Speed is starting to run down on Shredder after Shredder was forced to take that extreme outside line earlier. Coming on to the front straightaway once again. Maybe Racing trying to move all over the place to get maximum amount of draft to get by traffic. And Maybe will drag Wolfpack by, so Wolfpack using the draft will pull themselves ahead of Robo 611, and Maybe is now within 3 seconds of our leader. The gap between our top 2 is actually widening. Little Caesar is staying real consistent and steady. Maybe has caught Shredder and Speed, and while Maybe is catching Little Caesar, it's really more a case that Maybe is running down Speed and Shredder quickly, is not running down Little Caesar nearly as fast. So we are anticipating that these drivers will make their second stop around lap 54. That would be cutting the race back into nice even thirds. I imagine PTG Speed guaranteed will stop on lap 54. Shredder and Little Caesar will likely go a little farther. Again, Speed right now has been caught by Maybe Racing. Here comes PTG Wolfpack. Wolfpack has been using the draft, has a tire advantage over all of these drivers, so while he is a lap down, he does have a race of his own he is fighting for. And now Speed whacks the outside wall. Maybe goes to the inside. Maybe is through. So, now Maybe is within 2.5 seconds of our leader, PTG Little Caesar, as AJ pits now. Look at Little Caesar, 55% on that right front. I look at SRD Shredder, 48% on the right front. I look at maybe racing, 48%. So Shredder has actually been managing and nursing his tires on this run, and maybe, while maybe has run Shredder down, maybe he's actually kind of lost a lot of their positive tire delta. Thing is, the positive tire delta has actually brought them back into third position. They've pretty much lost PTG Speed because Speed is just dealing with such extreme tire fall off right now. Real quickly, just look at Speed's tires. He's in the high 50s, I believe, 61%. Yeah, Speed is really hurting something nasty right now. Oh, and something's happened to Little Caesar. Little Caesar has bled off a bunch of his speed, and now SRD Shredder's got him. Oh, and maybe's into the wall farther back. No damage. He's able to continue, but now Maybe has gone too hard. He sent it too hard, and now has fallen behind Speed, and Little Caesar has now lost the lead to Shredder. So the race continues to change in bizarre and unanticipated ways. So Shredder now goes to the point. Little Caesar in second, and now he is just trying to hold on to the draft, to hold on to Shredder's draft here. Again, pitting early gives you a significant advantage on track position, but that advantage will dribble away as the race goes on. Our top two don't pit this lap. Roachman, formerly known as Aidenman, will be the next driver that our leaders come up on. Matter isn't going to pit this time. All things considered, maybe Racing is not completely lost PTG Speed, and if Speed continues to deal with this extreme tire wear, maybe will catch Speed. Again, the big difference is that this stint, there have been no laps under yellow. You just have to make do with what you have. Shredder is doing everything he can to just nurse his tires right now. And I think the overall advantage in this fight for the win is going to go in Shredder's favor. Shredder is not stressing the tires. He's letting off of the throttle nice and early, just letting the car roll through the corners, and everyone around him is now burning up their rubber, and Maybe Racing pits on lap 54. So now Maybe is on a massive disadvantage. He's going to have a track position advantage, but he is going to have a tire disadvantage to the end of this race. Little Caesar runs just a little bit behind SRD Shredder now, running in his draft, using the draft of the car ahead to artificially extend the life. I look at the fuel, 5.7% for Little Caesar. For Shredder, 15%. So Shredder not only has a tire advantage, but a fuel advantage, because Shredder has not been pushing 100% the entire time. He has been letting off. He's been rolling through the corners, not really pushing or abusing his stuff. And driving smarter, not harder, is the kind of thing that will get you a win here. And now you see PTG Speed pitting farther back. He'll be joined by Dino Prime, so Dino Prime has basically thrown away any shot of him trying to get a good result. This also is basically going to throw the championship momentum very solidly in SRD Shredder's favor here. I'm really interested to see where does Maybe Racing end up in relation to PTG Speed, because the two of them were pretty close to each other, and Speed is going to pit one lap later than Maybe. Does Maybe pitting early have enough of a track position advantage that they can break the draft between themselves and Speed? Caesar has completely lost touch with Shredder, and Caesar will likely have to consider pitting on this lap. Yes, Little Caesar will pit this circuit. And where is Speed? Just a little bit ahead. So Maybe Racing is going to see PTG Speed on the inside coming out of pit lane. Can Maybe complete the overtake? Can Maybe even catch Speed's draft? It looks like Speed's far enough ahead. Maybe's got a big toe. He's got a big run on PTG Speed. Does he make a Herculean send on the outside? Go ahead and turn over Speed. He does! Maybe around the outside! He's made the move stick! But now Maybe is in a position where Speed can hang out in Maybe's draft and just save his fuel and save his tires and then pounce in the last 15 laps of the race, and Maybe won't have anything to do. And now the question is, where are these two going to be in relation to Little Caesar, who's just come out of pit lane? There's Neb rolling out of pit lane. Little Caesar is already coming onto the back straightaway. He is well ahead of this duel right now. So Little Caesar's advantage is that while he's going to lose a lot of his track position advantage to these two, he now has a massive overall positional advantage. Look at this gap. It's closing now. Maybe is just about to catch Little Caesar's draft. But Caesar has the advantage over this duo, and he has a tire advantage now. And SRD Shredder is in the pits as well this lap. So Dean Speedman and Larry B lead now. TJ is in third. They are trying to go ultra long to go for a really short final stop, but we know that they will have to pit sooner rather than later. We know it is this Quattro at the front will be fighting. Where is Shredder compared to Little Caesar? Shredder is already coming out of pit lane. He's accelerating on the front straightaway. Little Caesar is nowhere in the vicinity. He's nowhere close. Little Caesar is nowhere close. Look how massive that gap is. And with only about 23 laps left, Shredder doesn't really have to worry too much about burning the tires up to the end. This could be enough. That could be all it takes to win the race for SRD Shredder, because this trio of Caesar, Maybe, and Speed are all going to be fighting with each other. TJ now pits out of third position. And we look at our current leaders who are off sequence, off strategy right now. Dean Speedman at the front. He's going to be pitting this lap, I imagine. And then you'll have Larry B just a little bit farther back. He can probably go another lap or two if necessary. These drivers won't have to worry at all about tire fall off, but they have a massive track position disadvantage right now. Maybe Racing now gets passed by PTG Speed. Speed gets by Roachman and is going to try and use the draft to close back down on Little Caesar. Speedman finally pits and will fall down the order. We're still waiting to see when Larry pits. After Larry pits, we'll knock out our last ad break, and then we will be staying green with you to the end of this race. But it looks like SRD Shredder has this locked up as long as there are no yellow flags. But there is a wild three-car fight that is developing for second position. Larry stays out another lap. So Larry's going to be running a very, very short fuel tank and will be absolutely blitzing on track. We'll be putting together some of the fastest laps we've seen all day. Rothman running these drivers' draft, which should actually be enough to pull them back ahead of PTG Robo. Look at this. Little Caesar squeezes Speed to the inside, but Speed commits. Speed goes deep, and now the car washes out wide. Little Caesar's going to try and cross over on exit of turn 1. Side by side again, going into turn number 2. Caesar inside, Speed outside. This corner is usually about flat out, but Speed has to let off. He still licks the outside wall. Little Caesar goes back by for a position. Now Speed looks to the inside once more. Neck and neck for the spot. Actually, no, we can stay green. We're not going to ad break. We're going to stay green. We're going to stay with you to the end of this race as long as it stays green. If we don't have any yellows, we will stay with you to the end of the race. Second, third, fourth, all on top of each other. Larry B, after pitting, is going to end up somewhere around 10th, 11th, 12th, but he is going to be putting together some wild laps. Now Maybe Racing gets back to the inside of PTG Speed. These two have a significant disadvantage to Little Caesar. Little Caesar is really coming into his own. But as this group is fighting, Shredder has opened up about a 3.5 to 4 second gap over the rest of the field now. Now Speed shoots to the inside. He's clear of Little Caesar for now. In the championship fight, remember, Dino and Shredder entered this race even in points. But with Dino set to finish 6th at best and Shredder set to walk off with a win, the championship fight is very easily going to swing in Shredder's favor. There's been some tension between Speed and Shredder over the last few years. Shredder has won every championship that Speed has partaken in, whether in almost any circumstance, over the last several years. And Speed has honestly went into this series thinking, look, I'm the one who designed this, I'm the one who set everything up, I should be able to finally win a championship and beat Shredder. That is not the case. Now, Speed has beaten Shredder in series that have multiple different cars, like GT cars, JGTC, things like that. But in anything that's a single car or a group of cars that are all built to something very similar, Shredder normally has destroyed PTG Speed. And right now, with the way this race is going, championship-wise, that's not going to change. And we could see some real frustrations from Speed as this event goes on here. Speed's strength was supposed to be on the ovals, but right now it's not looking like it's happening. And then Lil Caesar, Speed hits the outside wall again and maybe shoots by on the inside. Lil Caesar's the really interesting one, because remember, Lil Caesar and SRD Shredder, they share a team in the Teams Championship, and then also, Maybe Racing is on the IFEA team that's not really had a lot of great results thus far. PTG Speed is 4th. The highest of the 2311 team, I believe, is way down in the 9th or 10th positions right now. So as it stands, while 2311 had a decent lead over the rest of the team championship coming into this race, the way that everyone's setting to finish up, the team championship is going to close down significantly. 2311 is starting to show a lot of weakness, and the Little Shred team could leap to the top of the fight. Oh, maybe hard into the outside wall that time. Is the car damaged? No signs of damage. But now Little Caesar is starting to scoot away from this duo. Seems like the championship picture is starting to come into play, come into focus. And that focus is not looking very good for anyone who's not SRD Shredder. Remember, Shredder could have won Watkins Glen, but the car bottomed out over a curb in the final sprint to the end, dropped him down the order, and he still drove back to a 3rd place finish there. If a bad day for Shredder is coming home 3rd, there's not anything you can do. You can't beat someone who's going to be coming home 3rd on the road courses and then can fight for wins on the ovals like this. The only reason, one of the few reasons Shredder didn't win at the Daytona Oval to start the season off is just because there were 5 cars in front of him. There was no room on the track ahead, but he set himself up for a perfect run to the end of the race there. Farther back, this is PTG Neb and Dino Prime. Dino runs in 6th position, 27% on that right front. PTG Neb runs in 5th position, 26% on the right front. So Neb has a very slight positive tire delta right now over Dino. Remember, Neb is on the outside of the championship fight as well right now. Now, Shredder winning this, that's not going to help, but still, Neb is in a position to still keep himself in a serious title contending fight. NFL racer who was with this group kind of got off sequence early with them and is now just completely stuck in no man's land. Excuse me, Larry B. This is going to be interesting to watch because Larry has no worry about fuel or tires to the end. He's going to be on one of the lightest fuel tanks, and he's going to have the best tires to the end of this race. Now, obviously, he's half a lap down roughly. He has no chance to fight for the win, but Larry could pull out something like a 7th place finish, depending on how the drivers ahead all manage their tires. Deed Speedman is in a slightly similar position. His tires are going to be slightly more worn. He's going to have slightly more fuel in the tank. But Deed Speedman could also pick off a few positions as this race runs to its end here. And there is someone who is slow on track. What is going on with Maybe? No damage, but Maybe may have had a controller disconnect. The car is in ghost mode, and now Maybe starts peeling away. Maybe fires on all cylinders again. But the great run that Maybe was having is now gone. Whatever has happened, whether it's a controller disconnect or internet disconnect or whatever, Maybe is back running, but now Maybe is about 40% of a lap behind our leaders. And that's going to change the outcome of the race a bit. Now, maybe he's not really in a fight for the points, but this is going to hurt the IFEA team, who was last in team championship points coming in. Maybe was set for potentially a top 3 finish. Now that's gone, and maybe is back behind NFL Racer. This also pushes Neb into the 4th spot and Dino into 5th. So our top 5 finishers, 4 of them would all be strong championship contenders at this stage of the event. But still, the gap between 1st and 2nd. 2002, 2003, 2004. I'm counting about 4 seconds, and I think that's going to be pretty close to what it actually is. Speed has got the draft off of Little Caesar now, trying to close in, wants to try and make a run for 2nd. Speed is behind Shredder in points coming into today's race. He needs every position possible to minimize the gap that Shredder is going to open up in the championship, and the car washes out wide in turn 1. Remind your Speed of these 3 here at the front. Speed pitted earlier than any of them. And is he going to start dealing with some significant tire fall off? He does have about a 4-second advantage over Neb and Dino, so I don't think he has to worry about being caught by that duo. But Speed might be dealing now with significant tire fall off, and that could be enough to really compromise his finish here. Still, for Speed, at least things have turned around. The last 2 finishes were finishes outside of the top 10. Miami, he got shunted to the back. And at Watkins Glen, a massive strategy miscue sent him from what could have been a top 5 finish down to outside the top 10. I believe he's had 2 11th place finishes back-to-back after his Daytona 250 win. A 3rd here would definitely set the momentum back in the right direction, but he has lost so much ground to SRD Shredder, it's just not going to matter. Real quick, Speed, his tires are at 42.3%. Neb, his tires are at 39%. Dino, his tires are at 41%. So there's a possibility that Dino stays in Neb's draft. Neb might be able to catch Speed, and Dino might be able to clip Speed at the very end of this run. But we are in the last 10 laps of the event. And again, once we start lap 79, there will be no more yellows. We could end this race under a very long flag run. Yellow Menace is pitting again. Don't know what's warranting that. All right, and now, as leader crosses the line, it's going to be 8 to go now. Are these 2 going to fight for position? They are both in championship play. Dino is much higher up in the championship, but they're both in play for the title fight. Neb licked the wall there out of turn 1. So while Dino is struggling with tire fall off, Neb is not exactly running the cleanest lines right now. And Speed has actually caught Little Caesar once more. Again, remember, top 2 are in the same team. So in the team's championship, you only get points for the top finishing driver in that team. But if the second best driver in the team finishes 2nd, well, you basically deny the other teams a chance at coming home 2nd. The gap between teams start opening up very quickly if you set your entire top grid up near the head of the field at the end of these races. Again, I look at this battle for 2nd, I look at the battle for 4th, I don't see any way that they really can fight for positions here. Here's a fight to maybe watch though. TJ, who is another outside championship contender, not in a great position as being I don't know if torment is the right word, but for dramatic sake, we'll say tormented. TJ is being tormented by Deed Spearman right now, who's running right behind, and Deed is going to have fresher tires to the end of this run. Now, TJ has good tires as well, but TJ still pitted a lap earlier than Deed. So, Deed has the advantage in this fight. As long as Deed can minimize the amount of times he'll hit the wall, it should be fine. And then Larry is about another 3 seconds back. I thought Larry would start making some big moves up the grid at this stage of the event, but it doesn't look like that's happening. The tire advantage is just not significantly enough in his favor. Maybe he can run down those two in the last few laps. I'll try to keep an eye on it, but I think he's going to end up stuck where he is right now on track. So our leader, SRD Shredder, went long on stint 1, went very long on stint 2. He still hasn't hit 50% on that right front tire wear and still has plenty of fuel to the end. Right now, Shredder just wants it to stay green to the end. Speed has actually cleared Little Caesar. So PTG Speed has gotten by Little Caesar, so that would help Speed in the Drivers' Championship a bit. But the gap between himself and Shredder is still 4 seconds, and the gap in the points is only going to get bigger. Speed's just trying to stop the bleeding right now. If this duo, Speed and Caesar, spend too much time fighting with each other, they may drag Neb and Dino up into the fray. Four laps to go now. If there's going to be an accident, it would have to happen on this lap to bring out a yellow. But I think the field has been well behaved enough. We should be able to stay green to the end. Maybe Racing has caught NFL Racer. Well, nope, never mind. I saw that wrong. Oh, and Deed, Sneeman, and TJ are in a little bit of a scrap for position still here. TJ still has it. Deed still wants it. TJ's taking cleaner lines, but Deed has a car that will last. And as SRD Shredder comes down and crosses the line, no more yellows to the end of this race. Still about 2 seconds back from this fight. He is raining down, but time is running out. The fight for second, it's still Lil Caesar. He's just gotten back by Speed. Caesar has a tire advantage. But at some point, you have to stop worrying about tire life and just send it and make moves. Nose to tail through 3, and now through turn 4, Speed is trapped on a much, much wider line than he'd like. Leads off a lot of time. Matter and AJ mistimed their fuel, and they're going to have to pit again. That will trap both of them a lap down. And Speed wide again in turn 1. I think this fight is over. I think Speed has burned off his tires way too far. He's already in the 61% range. I look at Lil Caesar, who's just a bit ahead. Caesar is at the 55% range. I think this fight is easily going to go in Lil Caesar's favor. Dino has actually gotten by Neb for the 4th position for now, but Neb is not done with him yet. Neb pulls up alongside, side by side now, going to turn 3. Dino lets Neb have the position in 3. Neb washes wide. Dino is just going to fall back in line behind as they head into 4. Dino likely trying to set himself up for a big move down the back straightaway on the last lap. White flag is in the air. And that gap between second and third has now massively opened up. But Speed is far enough ahead, he shouldn't have to worry about being caught by this duo. Dino looking to the inside of PTG Neb in turn 2. Oh, they both whacked the outside wall, but Dino got off way worse of it. I think that's going to decide that fight for position. But coming down the line, started on pole, didn't lead the lap from the start, but strategy takes it home for him. SRD Shredder is your winner at Indianapolis. And the Little Shred team takes 1st and 2nd overall. PTG Speed comes home 3rd. PTG Neb holds off Dino for 4th, so Dino comes home 5th. NFL Racer fighting with Maybe Racing as they come down to the line. It looks like NFL will have 6, Maybe will have to come home 7th. Although the game seems to think Maybe was ahead of NFL. Deed Speedman did get TJ in the end for 8th. 9th was TJ, 10th is Larry, and Roachman, I believe, is setting himself up to be the first man to finish a lap down, but Matter is not done with him yet. These two drivers have fought with each other for many years. Their racing history against each other goes back to 2019. And they're at it again. Matter gets by Roachman in turn 3 on their final lap. Can Roachman make something happen back? It doesn't look like it. I think Matter is going to just clip Roachman. He will come home 11th. Oh! And Roach slaps the outside wall. Something nasty there. VER AJ Gamer will be in 13th. Robo will be 14th. 15th will be Wolfpack. 2 laps down, and 16th will be YOLO Menace. And that will wrap up our race. We're going to knock out an ad break, and when we come back, we'll be talking to our top finishers here at Indianapolis. All right, let's see here. More options. Yeah, okay. Caesar, can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, go ahead and include your audio. I'll be starting post-race interviews very shortly here.
Okay.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Indianapolis Motor Speedway here. As our race has come to a close, we have in the booth with us right now our second place finisher, PTG Little Caesar. Caesar, very interesting race. You didn't start right near the front, but you came home with a very respectable second place finish and locked out the top 2 positions for your team. What do you have to say about your results today?
Yeah, it was a good race throughout. Just kept the slip with speed and shredder and maybe for three quarters of the race, and then got to the pit stops, and as I just hadn't done any pit practice, I just had absolutely terrible exits, which then allowed shredder to get ahead, but good result, so I'm happy with it.
All right, second place finish here. So obviously you've really come to life on ovals, and there will be some more ovals in the near future. Do you think you have a win in this series coming for you sometime soon?
I'm going to aim for the win next weekend at road course, if I can get the tune going well. Hoping to go for that and then carry on from there and see if I can take the bike to shredder for the championship.
All right, well, we'll be looking forward to that. I'll be interested to see what can be done there. Thanks for jumping in and talking with us, Little Caesar. All right, another driver we want to talk to is PTG Neb. And Neb, I could swear I've talked with you earlier today already, but I just like your voice so much I got to hear from you again. Go ahead, include your audio, Neb. What do you have to say about your race out there today?
It was alright. The result was better than I thought it was going to be. It was interesting because this is the only race I haven't run up front in so far, so I thought I was kind of a bit bummed from that, but it's my best finishing result of the season, so that's good. I thought I pulled a blinder on strategy by pitting on the second caution to try and avoid tyre wear, but the traffic slowed me down too much. if I was able to hang on to the front pack, I reckon I would have had a good chance at the win there, because I didn't hit moderate tire wear like once.
Well, you're still in the I will say, with a 4th place finish here, you're still in the championship threat. You're still in the championship fight. I think everyone in the top 5 is honestly a very serious championship contender right now. But now we kind of have an idea as to where everyone's real position is. What's your strategy in the championship fight to try and take the fight to Shredder going forward?
I don't think I've got the raw pace to beat Shredder at any track, so I kind of just have to hope he falls into trouble with his laggy computer issues, which is a bit morbid, but you know. But I'm just, at this point, I'm just trying to get the best results I can, just have fun. I reckon I can win a race someday. That's my goal right now. I've got decent road course pace, so maybe if I pull a strategy blinder again, I could win next week.
All right, well, thanks for jumping in and talking with us again today, Deb. Like I said, I really wanted to hear your voice twice today, so it was nice to be able to do that. Thanks for jumping in and talking with us. Another driver I want to talk to is our 3rd place finisher, PTG Speed. Speed, go ahead, include your audio. Interviewing you as a driver for right now. Top 4 starting position, came home 3rd. That's the good news. Your other good news, you're back to finishing near the front of the field. Now for the bad news. That championship gap has opened up widely.
Yes.
What do you have to say about your race today, and what's your strategy to take the championship fight to Shredder going forward?
Well, it's like I said last week. I needed to get back on track, and I'm back on track now with a nice 3rd. Definitely, it's that gap opening up because of 2 straight sub-10th finishes hurts, and it's still going to hurt now that one of them will stick due to the drop round. So, I mean, at least both of them won't stick, but one of them is. As far as taking it to Shredder, we'll just have to see. I mean, he put on a clinic as far as tire wear goes. Everyone calling out their tire wear, and he was always the lowest number all day long. So that's just massive, massive props to him racing. As for taking it to him, it seems like he might be the favorite right now going. There's a lot of ovals this season. We still have Sunset to do. We still have Daytona, especially, is a big one. I think it has opened up, but he's not run off with it. There's a couple of hurdle tracks that we still got to hopefully finish good at, with him not finishing good at. But yeah, I'm just happy to be back where I need to be.
All right. Well, your momentum has turned around, and it is back to a podium finish. We'll look forward to seeing what you can do going forward. Now talking to you as a series host. A lot of drivers complain about Indianapolis and NASCARs in these games. That is a infamous thing going all the way back to Forza Motorsport 6. People don't like how the NASCARs handle around the Indianapolis Oval. But now, at the end of the event, what's the verdict on the tune at this track today?
Well, people heard a lot of people complaining about it during practice, during qualifying, and maybe the first lap or 2. But as the race progressed and the rubber started to come in, people started learning it, and they were actually making passes with it, holding too wide through both sets of turns on either side of the straightaways. And when the race was over, a couple of them said, hey, that was actually pretty good. Once the track woke up, the tune really came into its own, and it was great. So I think we're going to keep things as they are. I don't see really any reason to change. It's just that this tune is just one of those that has a learning curve. You're going to hate it at first, but the more you understand it, you'll end up enjoying it, it turns out. And I don't know what it looked like on your end, but I had a blast. I wasn't bored one time throughout the entire race, even when there were gaps, a second too long. I was just pushing the thing, seeing how far it could go, and I had a great time. So I hope the sentiment is shared. And to expand to a different topic with the caution rules, how last week we had a problem with cautions taking a long time. We got to run the new system for the first time today, where a yellow was called before the caution cutoff point, and it worked great. People seemed to like it. They said that really cut time down so we could get more green flag laps, and it worked. So overall, my personal performance and as far as the series goes, I think this was a great weekend.
All right. Thanks for jumping in, talking with us, mate. And now I want to talk to one more person, the driver who started on pole in today's race, SRD Shredder. Shredder, that was a clinic. And it wasn't just go crazy, elbows out, go wild. I watched you. You were very relaxed, slow. You were laying off the throttle earlier, rolling slower through the corners to preserve tire life and preserve fuel. And oh my gosh, did that work. Go ahead, include your audio. What do you have to say about your run today?
I mean, qualifying to begin with, I was pretty surprised that maybe didn't improve on his third lap. I don't know if it went off or anything. I found a bunch out of nowhere coming out of turn 4. And then start the race, going through 1. Just before I went to go to 5th, I bottomed out on something in the road and rev banged, so I lost first there. And the caution came out, gathered it back up, nearly got turned by the game again. Sending me back doing the lag thing like I did at Daytona. It tries to kill me then. I started in, got through that caution, and then beyond then, just essentially from that point onwards at the race, I was just saving the tyres. The only time I was pushing it was like the last 4 laps, trying to get the quickest lap. And I had being at the way of people during the pit cycles just meant I could open up a massive amount of time compared to everyone else fighting, and also had the god of pit exits, and just didn't have any trouble with traffic from that point onwards, and just coasted away pretty much.
Okay, when it comes to the championship fight, first we'll talk teams championship. Your team walks out 1-2 today, so that should help you significantly in the teams championship. What's your plans for the teams championship fight going forward? Do you think there are any tracks that you are concerned about that Caesar is going to do better than you at? And if so, are you going to prioritize Caesar over yourself for the teams championship? Or is it, nope, screw that, a driver's championship fight is more important?
I mean, knowing Caesar, he's probably going to walk me at most the road courses. I'm probably going to have a better shot at the ovals. So it just depends. We'll make tunes at the race, see who's got the pace, and just go from there. And just base strategies off that.
All right. And then on the other thing that's worth asking is going to be for the Drivers' Championship. You came into this race tied with Dino, but Dino finished way down in 5th, and all of your other title rivals were behind you as well. So you have massively opened up the points gap. Do you keep pushing hard and go for wins, or do you just start managing points for the rest of the day and try to minimize the amount of time you're fighting with people for position to minimize accidents? Do you start being conservative, or do you keep being aggressive?
I mean, today was conservative, and the wind just sort of fell into my lap because everyone else was fighting with each other. I think coming out the pits, there was a 3-second gap or something, and then they started fighting, and it dropped to a 5. And that was when I wasn't pushing at all. So today pretty much fell into my lap. So, yeah, as I said before, it's just going to depend race on race, what happens during the race, and then just adapt from there.
All right. Well, in that case, we'll definitely keep an eye on it. It looks like we have a favorite in our championship fight here. With that in mind, there's just one more interview I want to do. This will be very short, single question. Deed Speeman, if you are still in the party, go ahead and include your audio. I just want to ask one question. What happened on lap 1 that turned you in front of the field like that?
Oh, wow, I wasn't expecting an interview, but just kind of sent it a little too hard on the inside of I think it was 4th and 5th. And I just sim twitched right back into the wall. So really unfortunate. Had a really fast car today. I honestly thought we had pace to finish way better than we did, but just unfortunate what happened at the start there. So.
All right. Well, with that in mind, I'll pretty much wrap up our broadcast here from Indianapolis. Been a very interesting day with a long period of green flag running for lots of strategy and a nice conservative drive. Brings home SRD Shredder his first win of the season and starts opening up the championship fight. I've been your host for today's broadcast, Insane Leader 13. In a week's time, you can come back and join us as we go back to the road courses again. But until then, thank you very much for joining us. Farewell. Oh, it's Indy Road Course next week. Good point. But yeah, until next time, farewell and goodbye, everyone.